room at Westside Decorating Center. And a good morning to you. Welcome on this Monday morning. And it is already the 20th of October. Wow. I'm Art Lewis. Nice to have you with us. Later on after the 10 o'clock news, we're going to talk to Dr. Zenia Habib from CMU Health about a diabetes awareness event coming up. At 11 o'clock, Great Lakes Bay Job Fair will be the subject of focus. And we'll have open phones as time permits, but for this hour, we start talking to 96th State District Representative Tim Beeson. Tim, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art.
Well, the budget's passed, finally. The good news and the bad news as you see it from the budget. What do you like? What don't you like?
Well, I like the fact that we got the school budget done. Going into the school year, it's always a good to have that done. I did like the legislative directed initiatives. Like you can see who is requesting money all over the state from your legislators, what they think is their concerns, and that's beneficial because if somebody were to move up to, like, say, Congress or to another position, you can see what people in the past have asked for or what they need help in your area. So I really appreciate that. I didn't like the 24% new tax proposal on the wholesale tax on the marijuana retail businesses. That is going to devastate a lot of independent small operations, and it came out of nowhere for me.
I've heard two versions of how that might impact. See what you think of these. First version is it might drive it back to a black market again to some degree. And the second version is that it might thin the herd of an overgrown industry. What do you think of either of those?
Well, I don't think that we need to thin the herd. We just need to make the regulations so that we could export it out of our state, because you can't do that. And that's a problem, not just with marijuana, but also with meat and other things. If you manufacture it here in the state, we don't have a good law in that place. And I think that we actually agree with you a little bit in the front side that's going to, because now that marijuana is legal because the people put it, right, it's a ballot initiative. It's
right.
Legal in our state, whether you like it or not. It's today, okay? So now we just made it so I feel like they're going to make the cops now become not just the enforcer, but they're going to have to tell people, hey, how much you can have and what you can do, and you're not old enough to do that. And I think that the way it was before, you had a lot of dispensaries and people could go in and say that was happening. And now it's going to be happening on the streets. And I think that no tax revenue is going to be collected then.
So let's take that a step further then. Let us say you take that out of the picture. How do you do the funding for roads that this budget has in it?
Well, so that was a compromise, right? And you're right. The road funding, I think that you are still going to take this out of the picture. I think that you're going to see next year and the year after, because it's already on a slide decline that these townships are depending on for their general budget. I mean, you're going to see a decrease and I think that it's kind of funny that it came up to $420 million is how much the revenue is supposed to be with this 24% tax. I think that this is going to be far, far less, and it's going to put a lot of the independent growers and processors out of the business. And I don't think that you're going to see the funding. And there is a lawsuit going on right now too.
Yeah.
But we're still figuring it out, right? And it's only because there are some parts of that language where it said the affiliated person in that language. It means the bigger companies can figure out how they're going to do it a little bit different than the smaller companies.
And so once again, the small businessman independent is going to be taking
You're
the
exactly
brunt
right,
of it.
Art. I have never. I'm not a marijuana user. My friends know that. I don't care, but we're looking for new revenue sources, and now we're just taxing another small business out of the state of Michigan. And when they get done, these companies are going to go somewhere else. They're just not going to stay here. We continue to make it harder for independent businesses to stay here. No ifs, buts about it.
And you have quite a few dispensaries in Bay, don't you?
So we have
you were early on.
69. Yes. So we actually have. There were 70 businesses, and I work with the CRA, which is the regulatory in Lansing, and I got the numbers from them. We have 117 licenses. We have 69 shops. We have, with that being said, in the state of Michigan, there's 4,300 some licenses. He just gave it to me, and they all pay a lot of money. In Bangor Township, it's just an example. Every year it's $100,000 less. This is going to devastate it. And when you don't have that money coming in for the license fees and the revenue, that because they don't just pay on the front side, they also pay a lot of money for a class A, B, or C license, and then another license, and then it's just a lot of money going to the state. And I'm going to hold the state accountable. If we don't have these licenses, we don't need all those workers working at the CRA.
Yeah. So let me ask this: licensing. It's often been said that dealing with the state, particularly like liquor control or something like that, can be an absolute nightmare. Are we making any progress in making the interaction between the business person and the state any easier? So
they did go to this online, and it's great if you are computer friendly, right? In my area, we have an old population that they're getting there, right? And they do use computers, but they don't use a lot of their smartphones and stuff. Some is easy, and some is still hard. And I have the licenses, so when the state says it did get easier to get to be a licensed deer facility this year, was easier than last year. So they're working some of that out. But it is hard. It's hard to get with liquor control, and it's hard to get with a licensing to get the exact license you need. And some of them, like MDARD, when you buy the wrong license, they don't give you back your money. They say you just got to buy another license. It's a final sale on the internet when you click yes.
Be careful what you click.
Yes.
So are all licenses available online or just certain licenses?
No, they're moving all the licenses, and you can go on Laura's page and look at all the different licenses. And there's a package of bills that even Bill Schuette is making it so the red tape of these licenses, it's going to get easier. So some of the qualifications and some of the language where the continuing ed and some of that kind of stuff, we're trying to clear that up. And I'm for compacts because we got to have our licenses work somewhere else. And then when people come here, their license needs to work here.
Yeah. You mentioned deer processing. Did the budget address, there was some concern that the licensing fees for hunters were going to go up, but they didn't, did they?
No, not this budget. I'm going to tell you, I still found some funding from the DNR when they bought a pool a year ago, and the budget when they give a grant out for a pool. These are the kind of things that it's tough for me to get behind of raising your fees, right, for fishing and hunting, and then find where they paid for it in a budget that doesn't require that. But I don't think that it's just mismanagement of some of the funds, and not across the board. There's great DNR people, and there's great state parks. I get that. But there's also some people at the top that decide that they can maneuver money around in the state's budget without the approval of your legislators and senators.
All right, hang on, Tim. I got to take a break, and we'll come back. We're talking to State Representative Tim Beeson from the 96th District, which is pretty much Bay County.
Being a part of a
All right, we're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show. We're talking to State Representative Tim Beeson from the 96th District, which is mostly Bay County. Tim, a couple of things surprised me when it came to policing. The first one was before the budget passed. The Republicans have a problem with Colonel Grady at the head of the Michigan State Police, and I understand that. But they were going to take it out on him by reducing the budget like $105 million. And I'm going, that just makes no sense for a party that's pro-police. Then the budget passed, and they got $28 million more this year. but that's not enough to cover the amount of raises the troopers got. And so they actually have a cut in their budget. Where are we with this, and why did it end up that way?
Well, also, remember that this year we also did the Public Safety Violence Prevention Trust Fund. So as the police maybe got moved around this year because of, and I think that was a dispute between the chairman of the board and, which is actually a retired state police down in the Fenton area, Representative Mike Mueller, and the fact that he wasn't getting the information from the director, right? Yeah. So I think that, but so that's to be worked out. And I actually tried to move MCOLS out of the state police department and put it back where it belongs, which is in Lara. But we didn't get that done this year neither, because it's a license of regulatory affairs is where it's supposed to be, and it's been in the state police department for a long time. So I think that you're still going to see it ongoing this next 2 years, and you got to have a better vote of confidence of the Michigan State Police Department. I mean, for what they do, and those troopers, right, are like the backbone of us, but they also, right, they have to want to go to work.
Well, I think the other problem, though, is that the state police, like everybody else, are having trouble recruiting, and we need some way to attract young people to law enforcement these days.
Well, it's funny, in the public safety, that trust fund, there is money in there for the recruitment, retention, and equipment eligible youth, and it hasn't broken down. So that was our a way of still putting money into the police program and for public safety and for the fire department and the first responders without and it's going to go more to the sheriff and actual cities and townships and probably less to the state police. But it's still there, right? Like it was still pretty, and it's kind of cool that you make something that can be still there after you leave, right? Because a lot of these, and we just switched the way that the sales tax revenue, but you leave it better than you get it, right? And there's a lot of things in Lansing that they do in a short period or things sunset, right? And I'm like, why do you guys do it that way? And they're like, well, that way they have to deal with it. And I guess that it sounds great, but long-term thinking of programs that sunset, right? And if there's not funds there, like we've grown a lot of these programs in the state, like in the last, since I've been there, we've grown a lot of programs. And when there's money in the state, that's fine. But I always ask the directors, what happens when the money's not in the state? What is the plan, right? So, yeah. But there is money in the public safety fund for actual law enforcement recruitment. And I think that we bumped it. We bumped it up. We were just in a Bay City event with a manager, and I think we bumped it from 10 million to 20 or 20 to 30. So there's money in there for that.
Yeah, one of the things that may happen, though, is because of the reduction in operating money, your everyday budget for the state police, they may have to pull their city detachments out of like Saginaw. They want to keep, I know they want to keep the investigative services there, but the road patrols may have to go elsewhere. And that would be a blow to Saginaw.
Right, but also in the public safety on the other trust fund, there's money coming in for the road patrol and some of these other areas with your city. And I actually have it broken down. I can find that number somewhere if you want to see. Like some of the cities are getting quite a bit more, and there's like I said, 75 million coming into this. So this is kind of it's and the money also can go for crime victims' right funds and local governments, the cities, the townships, the villages. So they're trying to do something different, I think, in areas that have a lot of violent crime.
All right, Tim, I want to go back to education for a minute here. I know you are a big supporter of parents and teachers, but it seems to me we increase the budgets every year, but our ROI, our return on investment, isn't there. We don't see an increase in our standing educationally nationwide. Where are we going wrong?
So that's I'm hoping that with the retirement of Dr. Rice, I'm not trying to be mean, but he's continued since the 7 years I've been into politics, whether it's at the school board, we continually go the other way. When I started, we were 34th, and now we're 43rd. And once again, I know that sounds crazy, but when you own a business and you're the director of your business, you have to take some responsibility. And I feel like sometimes our educational, and not the people on the ground, not the teachers, right? Not the people that are dealing with it every day. We keep changing the rules, and we keep changing how we're going to make the new curriculum every couple of years, and that doesn't seem to be working the way that we have it set up right now.
I'm a firm believer in local control. It's my opinion that the local school boards are the best ones to handle their own education. It just seems to me when we have this centralized control of the state telling us what we need to do and how we need to do it, we're not succeeding.
Well, and I agree with you. That's why I wanted to roll up a lot of the categoricals and give it to the ISD and decide. And a lot of people were against that because everybody feels that they're one part of the school system is more important than some other part of the school system. And it has to be. And you got to look at the bigger picture, right? And I thought, well, why do we put our finger on the scale at the state level? Why don't we just put out the money? And that sounded all great, and give it back to the ISD boards, give it back to the school boards. And we got a lot of, well, you're cutting this program, you're cutting that program. And I'm like, the program wasn't there 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So you're cutting a program that became, and all these different programs, everybody tries to look at all these different programs that are in the school system and trying to find something that works. And every 3 or 4 years, you change a superintendent, you change and if they're there for 10 years or a 10-year, right? You're dealing with that ineffective system, right?
Yeah.
But I think that teachers need to teach the way that they need to teach, that they feel passionate about how they reach their students, right? And then we make new rules at the state of Michigan. You got to do it this way. You got to test this way. And that doesn't seem to be working the way that we are doing it in the state of Michigan.
No, it doesn't. You got that right. Can you hang around for another segment?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I want to take a break, and then we'll come back with 96 State Representative Tim Beeson. And let me take a moment to tell you about Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford. As you are well aware, you live in Michigan. And guess what Michigan has? It's called winter. And guess what that means? Driving challenges, ice, snow, what have you. And one thing to remember is that winter tires are different than regular season tires. And to tell you about it, here's John from Quick Lane.
Hello, Art. Yes, winter tires are made with a pliable rubber compound that includes silica to stay flexible and maintain grip in freezing temperatures. Unlike harder all-season tires, which stiffen and lose traction in the cold, this flexible compound allows the tire to better conform to the road surface, providing superior grip and traction on snow and ice to keep you safe.
Thanks, John. And we also want to remind you that while you're there having your tires checked, you might want to have your cooling system checked just to make sure that things are okay with your cooling system for the wintertime. You don't want any surprises at all, to say the least. And you might also want to check out the new Fords at McDonald Ford. And one other thing I want to tell you about is that McDonald Ford is having a trunk or treat event on the 23rd. And it's going to be right there at the dealership. You'll be able to enjoy some delicious goodies. There's going to be food. There's going to be candy. There's going to be all kinds of wonderful deliciousness at McDonald Ford. Candy, games, interactive trunks, food by big meaty fillies, bounce house, obstacle course, and it's free. It's this Thursday, October 23rd, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at McDonald Ford in Midland. And don't forget Quick Lane Freeland at the same location. Have your tires and coolant checked out.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jennifer.
Usually, the Department of Transportation does all your highways and your state roads, okay? So anything that's the M's, the I's, those roads are all funded by MDOT. And they also, it's kind of funny, they also can bond without going through your legislators for anything that they need to be fixed, right? So this year in the budget, they say it's 1.7 to 1.9, and it's going to fluctuate how much money is gained from the debuckling and from the revenue from the marijuana, and it's going to change, right? But that funding that is in the budget this year is from the highway to your driveway. So, like, it's actually, I mean, it's funny that it took this many years to actually put in, and that's still not enough. On our first budget, well, the Republicans were trying to get like 3.2 or 3.4 billion in there without any cuts. But this is a good start to keeping the money here for the local roads, and it's going to come through. And as I understand, it's still going to be done by your road commission, but it's going to be more money for the townships or villages for their. And I'm still learning it all because, once again, right, even though the budget has passed, I'm still learning pieces of the budget when people are bringing it up, and then I have to figure out and get an analysis of how it's going to go. But this year, there's going to be more money for our local roads and all the way up to our driveways. So it's going to be interesting, and I think our local people that do the driveways, that do all the roadways, they're excited because they came down to Lansing and they are glad that we had a plan for them this year so they don't have to leave our state for jobs.
At one time when revenue sharing was significant in the budget, that covered a lot of things. Revenue sharing has decreased and decreased and decreased over the years. This is an attempt to move back now, isn't it?
Well, yes, but they did lose. They did lose in other areas as we put the money, right? So I think that, yes, there's an increase to get more road funding, but it's also, if we keep putting our finger at the state level and say there's all these qualifications that every township, city, or village has to do, right? We basically tell them what to do and we give them less resources. And sometime we're going to have to figure a system that merges it, unless we figure out a way to bring new revenue in. But taking that tax on a business that's already starting to struggle, and they're going to say, well, this is going to weed out more of the businesses. Well, it's actually going to get rid of a lot of livelihoods. So I'm yet to see that this. I'm very much a skeptic. I did not vote for that part of the budget because I think that this is going in the wrong direction, where we should look at something else for new revenue and be a trans person, or we maybe move like the growth of hemp and marijuana. So we grow the plants here and we send them out, right? Yeah. That's what we really need to do with being an exporter of that, instead of just being stuck inside the Michigan borders.
Now, is that state law or federal law that prevents it?
State law. It's state law. Because we are getting like some of the stuff is coming up here, like some of the new hemp products is coming from states that have also legalized marijuana, but hemp is not that, and they're bringing it in. So I just think that we're missing and that's even with the meat department. Like, your meats can't go outside of our state with our MDARD license, and I'm thinking, my goodness, like, we can't sell online to another state, and there's some rules there that have to happen, and we got to be a little more competitive, so that we have net state revenue too, right? So yeah. I'm excited to try and find new revenues and not tax the revenues that we got to try to pay for more and more stuff, right? And because everything's increasing, we know that, right? Everything is increasing, right? You live in this world, and I live in this world. Like, I mean, even the roast. I mean, we can't do something with a chuck roast that's like $5 to $7 a pound.
I was just going to ask you about that. Are the meat prices moderating at all?
Well, that's the thing is we know it continues to go up. The beef, we've got to be able to process more beef in our own state. This isn't rocket science. We have them here. We just ship them all somewhere else to get done, and we only process last time I think I checked about a year ago, we processed between 400,000 and 500,000 steers or animals here a year, and we raised 1.8. So there's no reason. I keep saying this. We would save so much money if we could open up. That's how you get it, right? Not spend the money on gas to get these animals where the processing happens down to the next state. We got to do it here. That would generate, and that's jobs and here, right? It's easy to do, but trying to get that part moving, right?
All right.
I like it.
One more break, and then we'll finish up. We're talking to State Representative Tim Beeson, and we will finish up with him when we return.
Mutual.
All right, we're back with you here on WSGW, talking to State Representative Tim Beeson from the 96th District, which is pretty much Bay County. I'm chuckling, Tim, and the reason I'm chuckling, I'm looking at a picture of you and Dr. George Grant from Saginaw Valley State University. It's Mutt and Jeff. He's got to be at least a foot. So your top of your head comes up to his shoulder, maybe. He gives new meaning to heads and shoulders above you.
And what a great time I had with him. He's a wonderful man, and I really do appreciate when we get some time together, because the talks are good, and it's away from politics. It's more about family and things that are going on, and he's a great. And once again, I also graduated from SVSU, so go Cards.
Yeah. All right, one other thing about the budget as we wind down here.
Sure.
Mental health has been a big issue in this state, and the country for that matter, for a long time. If you talk to some of the judges, like our own Pat McGraw here in Saginaw, they will tell you they're really perplexed because they have nowhere to send folks that need to be in mental health beds. It is a real problem. Mental health is an issue. Are we doing anything to increase funding for mental health?
Art, I don't think that we are going to get enough funding for mental health in the next 10 years. I'm trying to be optimistic. I know that we're doing it at the schools with that 31N program with the mental health in their schools, because they saw such a rise in 2019.
Yeah, after they cut the money.
No, it's all back there this year.
This year, but before it went down.
Right. But that's what we came in with, right? I think the big supporter there is, somebody like Phil Green that's been up and working on that, and even trying to get our local ones more beds and more beds. And I tried to get a $5 million grant here for Bay County, and I couldn't get the 20-bed $5 million grant here. And it's tough because it's not just getting the funding; it's trying to find the people to do the service, right? To get the doctors that we need to handle this.
But if we don't do something about it, the problem's only going to get worse.
You're exactly right. You can only kick a can so far down before you realize that you have to handle it, right? So I am always, and in the DHHS budget, there's a lot of new programs that seem to come out every year, but that's the problem is we continue to add more programs, more employees to the state budget, but we really don't. It's like we don't do a great job of the ones the programs that are working, right? And that's something to be said, that I don't think that we're going to be able to continue to increase our state programs and our state workforce at the state level. We need to really rein it back in and get what we're doing right, because we can't afford to keep going unless we have a big new source of revenue. We can't try to make the resources spread out farther and farther and farther. Pretty soon you run out of frosting on that cake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Well, now that the budget's passed, what's ahead for you? What's on the table right now?
It's funny that you say that. We start budget boot camp. This is Ann Bolin at her best. We start budget boot camp next week for next year's budget. We're going to get that, and it's probably election year, so I know the budget's going to, so we have to spend all the time, because finding some stuff in the budget that shouldn't be there, you're like, what is this doing here? And it was 2 years of everything just got passed through with whatever, without me at the table or even advocating for our area. So now that we're there, and I like to stay in front of it, we're going to start working on the budget right now for next year, which is great, because that's crucial, because there's some certain areas in the budget that we're still that we just don't see the results in a positive way that we want to keep those programs around.
Well, you got enough time to talk about it now and get it done on
Yes,
time,
we
huh?
do.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm excited that you invited me to the. I'm going to come in next time. I'm going to.
No, absolutely.